the
Okay, like I said earlier, I think this week was also like a record for the conference.
Yes.
One report, 4 days, still no headway.
Yes.
What is going on with this report?
It's revenue. You know, when it comes to money, revenue sharing, I think it's normal to have rancor. And I think that is what is happening. The committee made its recommendation, but some of the members at the plenary feel it's not what they want. And so they make their own suggestions during the plenary. It became rowdy. Some said no. I think it's normal when it comes to revenue sharing. It's always like that.
I would like us to break it into two. The different issues that were taken to what I would like to call the consensus committee to look to. But let's start with the derivation.
Yes.
Now, the South and some of the delegates are saying they would want it increased. Another section is saying the way it is, as the committee recommended, 13%, let it remain. What is the, we can understand their own plea, those from the South saying they want it increased, the ecological problems the side has and all that. But those that are not saying, they're saying it should be at 13%. What is the argument?
First of all, the 13% is already in the Constitution.
Yes.
It's a constitutional it's in the 2004 Act. Yes. So it's already what is the status quo.
Yes.
And the committee recommends that the status quo be maintained. Mm-hmm. And the onshore, offshore should also be maintained. So that is the committee's recommendation. Now the South is not happy with the recommendation and they want an increment. They started with 100%, 50%, 25%, you know, so many percentages. And of course, those who are not from that side argue, like the northern part of the country, where I am coming from, argue that you are already taking so much.
Yes.
First, there is NDDC, is it Ministry for Niger Delta? Then there's the amnesty. And if you combine all this together, you are actually getting more than the 13% that is legally approved for you. And I have a paper here. For example, if you look at my state, I'm a delegate from Zamfara State. In the month of May, the allocation to Zamfara State,
May of which year?
2014.
Okay. The
allocation for Zamfara State is 4,055,770. I don't know how to read these figures, but 4 billion.
4 billion.
Something. But if you look at the allocation for Akwa Ibom for the same month of May 2014, it's 22 billion. 360 million and so on. I can't read the others. The same thing if you look at Bayelsa has 13 billion. So what we are looking at is that is rather, the disparity is too wide. We appreciate the fact that Niger Delta is really devastated and something needs to be done, but not through this derivation. Already this disparity is so wide. I remember the North is suffering from insecurity and a lot of destruction. Look at the Northeast and also some part of the North Central, Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa, and Northwest, Zamfara, my state, Katsina, some part of Kaduna. So we are saying already we are in trouble. We have millions of youth who are unemployed. By the time you remove like 250 million or 290 million, and add, you can imagine what 290 million will mean to my state. So we are saying, no, this is rather, let us adopt what the committee suggested, what the committee recommended, that the status quo be maintained. And another argument is that onshore, offshore, we were saying that it's since oil that belongs to the land is onshore, the one in the sea. The arguments also at the plenary is that you are taking both sides instead of just the one on the land, and the one on offshore, 200 nautical miles belong to the Nigerian nation. But that is already a law. We cannot do anything about that. But we just want the committee report to remain. But we don't know what the wise men that the chairman called. Remember, at the end of the meeting yesterday, the chairman said he was going to meet with the original 50 wise men and women that were selected to resolve the issue of 70% to third
Voting.
or 70%.
Yes.
So he's going to meet with them again, together with other members at the plenary. We don't know what compromise they will come up with. We are not saying that this must be our position, no, but that it should be, if there is a compromise reached, of course, and it's acceptable to the plenary, I think we will be good.
Now it appeared there, from what we heard when the committee came, I think right from Wednesday, that they had agreed on an 18%. The tricky point now went from that point to the setting up of a national intervention fund.
Oh yes, there was a suggestion
Yes.
that, okay, since there is devastation in the northeast,
Yes.
and north central and some part of northwest, that we also need some kind of intervention.
Yes.
And we are also suffering environmental degradation. So also is the southeast with the erosion and all that. So they said there should be, it's a suggestion or recommendation. Okay, if you give 18% to the south, or you increase 13% to 18%, give something to the other part of the country so that they also can deal with the disaster that is happening in their areas. But I think that has not been carried. It's still maybe subject to negotiation.
That appears to be the tricky point right now. And one is because when the chairman of the consensus committee, Professor Gambari, was reading it, that appeared to be, and I've spoken to some delegates, it appears to still be an issue whether or not that fund should be just for the north, or just it should be an intervention, national intervention fund for wherever, which part of the country.
Right now, we cannot say exactly,
Okay.
because there are so many recommendations, really.
Okay.
And Professor Gambari's is one of them. And like I said, we should not preempt them. The chairman is meeting today with so many members of so many delegates. So unless we see what compromise they come up with, we cannot really say which recommendation is acceptable and which one is not. And remember, even if they agree, they have to bring it to the General Assembly for us to accept or to reject. We have to wait.
I'm taking your perspective now. If you were to advise us, looking at the issues from what you know, and knowing that we're not making solutions for today, we're trying to see going forward, if we're to, the program's title is Rethinking Nigeria, if we're to do it in another way, what would you advise?
Well, as a delegate from my state, I will support the position of the committee. Okay. The committee recommendation is what I will support personally and on behalf of the people of my state, that is Zamfara State. I think that will, for now, be, but maybe gradually in the future, like you said, we are talking of the future, when other minerals deposits that are bound all over the country, particularly in my own state, you know, there is a lot of gold in Zamfara State. When federal government now develops those minerals in those areas, then we can think of even 50% or 100% if you like. But right now, the only resource we rely on is oil. That is why there is so much commotion, so much tension, and so much emotion attached to it. But if there are other minerals developed all over the country, I don't think it would matter what percentage you take.
Can I just take this up with you? Some people have said the issue we should be concentrating on is not so much as resource control, but resource integrity. That there is accountability for even that is being received right now. We're talking about developing other minerals, which everybody agrees other parts of the country we have in abundance.
Not only north.
Not every part of the country. Now, would you say the conference has paid enough attention to trying to ensure that whatever is spent, the issue of the people get the worth of that money, corruption, management, and all that? Would you say you people have?
One of the committee on Devolution of Power's recommendation is that the 13% should be ensured to reach the people where the resources are being explored, directly to the communities of the people. I think that is in a way to making the community, making the government accountable to the community where the devastation occurs. So far, there is so much derivation sent, so much money sent to the Niger Delta, but is it really reaching the grassroots, the people who are really suffering.
Or addressing the problems we're saying. But this issue of the ecological problems.
But the committee made a recommendation that it should go directly to the communities where the devastation is. So I think it's we are addressing that issue. And there is also the issue raised at the plenary that the federal government owes a lot of money, and the DC a lot of money, and we all recommended that the federal government should pay immediately so that this money can be used to take care of the environmental devastation in the south.
I'm also wondering right now, the issue of sharing. I'm wondering, are we not oversharing? We're recommending 5% to a new fund, another 5% to mineral exploration or development for the government to develop minerals in other states. We're talking of 18%. And scattered in some of the other committees are 2% here, 3% here. Are we not oversharing?
We cannot be oversharing. This is Nigerian resources. This is Nigerian money. So we are not oversharing. All the figures you mentioned, 1%, 2%, there are reasons attached to those recommendations, and the plenary agreed and approved them. I don't think we are oversharing.
Okay. Now, I would like to take you up on another issue that we got into this week, the issue of modalities for what should happen to the recommendations of the conference.
Mr. President set up this conference and informed us to think Nigeria in the next 100 years, to think of the future. Obviously, things are not working as we expect what to do. And 20 committees were set up, and we have almost concluded. So the modalities for implementation was what we were discussing at the plenary while negotiations were going on the issue of derivation. Yeah. I think when we finish our conference and write our report, if you notice, the recommendations are in 3 parts. There are those parts that require constitutional amendment. And in fact, Mr. President in his speech said that whatever we come up with will be taken to the National Assembly on the ongoing constitutional amendment. Then there are those recommendations that require policy implementation immediately. And then there are those that also affect the state governments. So my recommendation or my suggestion is that as soon as we submit this report, those issues that require constitutional amendment should be submitted to the National Assembly for them to make the necessary amendment, because they are already in the process of amending the Constitution. While those that require implementation, policy implementation, policy change, executive orders, the President should go ahead immediately and implement those suggestions. Also, those that concern state governments must also go ahead to implement those suggestions.
Now, if all things had gone well, the conference should end this coming week. This on the 17th, if I remember rightly. Now, the way we're going, do you think this conference can conclude at that time? Or are you foreseeing another extension?
No, I don't think there will be need for any extension. It's only one issue that remains, derivation. Okay. And as we speak, the chairman is having a meeting with, like I said earlier. So I suppose we will resolve it by Monday.
So this will not break the...
No, there is no breaking. We love Nigeria, and we are all working towards what is best for Nigeria, all of us. I can assure you that. So we'll come up with a solution.
Now, I'm really looking forward to how the conference will unfold this week, and I'm sure you are too. Just remember, we will be here to bring you every unfolding scenario in that conference. Till next week, I'm Lanre Lasese. Bye.